right now. I just did it so that I don't have to worry about it, okay?
This time, and if the Republicans don't
sounds good
for the ticket, he's going to do everything he can to destroy the ticket. Which is going to make for interesting theater. Get out the popcorn kind of stuff. Mike, thanks for the call. And thank you for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active. Double check your voter registration, by the way, especially if you live in a red state and you've ever registered as a Democrat. They're coming for you. So double check it. Do it every couple months. Make sure that your voter registration is still intact. There's elections this November, statewide elections all across the country, plus, a year from now, the big one. So get out there, get active, tag You're It. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
If you're struggling to keep up with conversations, avoiding restaurants because you can't understand the waiter, if you've got the TV volume way up, then you really need these. These tiny but powerful little hearing aids are the Nano CIC rechargeable, priced at only $297 for a full pair. And no, these are not simply amplifiers. These are ultra high quality, ultra reliable hearing aids, priced thousands less than other hearing aids. They fit right in your ear. Nothing shows on the back of your ear. And at only $297 for a full pair. When you order today, Nano will give you a 45-day money-back guarantee. Order right now and Nano will give you a free portable charging case and even ship them to you for free. Here's the number. Call now.
800-256-1842. 800-256-1842. 800-256-1842. That's 800-256-1842.
The David Pakman Show.
One of the claims that's often used to say the border is open is you will hear things like, we're catching so many people at the border because Biden opened it. If we are catching people, if we are stopping people, if we are taking people into custody, by definition, the border is not open.
The David Pakman Show, weekday evenings at 10 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hi, I'm Marcel Spears. Keeping our global neighborhood safe is a tough job, made easier by America's brave military dogs. These dogs keep our troops safe by sniffing out bombs and IEDs and locating enemy positions. Yet when these canine heroes retire, they're too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring these valiant dogs home and reunites them with their handlers for happy, healthy retirements. To learn how you can help, visit AmericanHumane.org.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. They're still waiting for answers. A year ago today, a gunman shot and killed 19 students and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Grieving family members are still waiting to find out why it took more than an hour for law enforcement to confront and kill the shooter. The investigation's still going on. Watch for Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis to announce today that he's running for president. He's been seen as Donald Trump's leading rival for the Republican nomination. The AP's Sagar Magani.
The 44-year-old governor has embraced the ex-president's combative style and many of his policies, but bills himself as a younger, more electable version. DeSantis would join a crowded GOP field, including Senator Tim Scott.
We need a president who persuades not just our friends and our base.
He presented himself this week as an optimistic alternative to both DeSantis and Trump. Sagar Magani, Washington.
It appears South Carolina will soon ban most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. That's before most people know they're pregnant. The AP's Donna Warder.
The state Senate approved the bill Tuesday, and Republican Governor Henry McMaster promised to sign it into law as soon as possible. The bill restores a 2021 ban that took effect when the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year. But the ban was overturned by South Carolina's highest court because it violated the state constitution's right to privacy. I'm Donna Warder.
In Guam, a typhoon is knocking out power and water to some. The Weather Service there warning residents to stay inside. It says trees and power lines are falling. Guam is a crucial hub for U.S. forces in the Pacific. The military moved its ships out to sea. Gas is $3.56 a gallon this morning, up 3 cents in a week. This is AP News. Now to what Russia is saying about what it says is happening on its territory.
Okay, do we have the pastor on?
A local official.
Yes, we do.
Okay, how are you?
In the southern
I am well, Sandy. How are you?
I am trying to get my printers right now, and it's not acting right.
Belgorod's governor says a large number of drones were intercepted overnight, adding no one had been hurt, but administrative buildings, residential
Always something.
cars had been damaged.
Sounds good on Facebook, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Moscow's blaming
Sure thing.
the action that had begun on Monday on Ukrainian military saboteurs, while Kyiv has described it as an uprising against the Kremlin by Russian partisans. I'm Charles Villadesma.
Also this morning, Russia says pressure from the West is strengthening Russia's ties with China. I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Mostly sunny skies here for today with a high in the low 70s. Winds out of the northeast increased around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Tonight, partly cloudy and low near 46. Thursday, sunshine, high of 65 degrees. Then on Friday, mostly sunny, high around 70. Saturday, mostly sunny skies will see high around 76 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 61. So honestly, I tried Attention Grace, and all those reviews were right. I've tried every brand, and Attention Grace really is the softest, most comfortable, most absorbent incontinence pad ever.
She's not alone. Attention Grace is changing the game with skin-safe liners, pads, and briefs designed by women.
I love Attention Grace. I am never going back to my old brand.
Tough on leaks, safe on skin, and gentler on the planet. Attention Grace Incontinence Care, now available at Walmart.com and 1,500 supercenters nationwide.
This is Ron Whittingham, and I'm co-owner of Megan Financial, an independent retirement and financial services firm here in Chicago. We've built our business on playing the long game, teaching financial literacy to our clients to prepare them for a great future and a dignified retirement. Investments, pensions, 401ks, they're all pretty complicated. We make sure that you understand it all. Give us a call at 708-444-1090. We're Megan Financial, and we're your partners in a happier retirement. Or visit us at megent.com.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors LLC, member of FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this broadcast are general in nature and provided for informational use only. The views are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisors LLC. They should not be considered as specific investment or tax advice. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Keep in mind that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Investment decisions should be based upon an individual's own goal, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Consult your investment and/or tax professional regarding your unique situation.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the sheep sleeps tonight. Oh, in the jungle, the quiet jungle, the sheep sleeps tonight. Oh.
It just isn't the same without the lion. Join the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance today. Visit sdzwa.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hi, I'm Lavina. I'm 7 years old and I'm blind. I love...
We have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Public speaking and riding on the trail bike with my dad. You can help me live the life I want.
Help Ravina and other blind people by making a tax-deductible donation of your used car, truck, or almost anything with wheels to the National Federation of the Blind. Your donation will help ensure a brighter future for blind children and adults. Just call 855-659-9314. That's 855-659-9314. Or visit carshelpingtheblind.org. That's carshelpingtheblind.org. We will arrange to have the donated vehicle picked up and provide you with a tax-deductible receipt. And if you know someone who is blind that can use our help, email nfb@nfb.org.
Blindness does not hold me back at all. Donate today.
The future depends on teachers. Every day, teachers are shaping our tomorrows, starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who will make preventing pandemics their life's work, sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who will help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who will be the first in their family to graduate college. It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and to enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
You want to feel important.
You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters and can
1 minute.
change things.
Okay. You want to feel like you belong.
We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it.
We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers.
We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more.
When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it.
We get to serve in our
Okay,
own
we can hear you in the
region and help
background,
the people
Vicky.
we call neighbors.
From the lake shores of Ohio, Michigan,
30 seconds.
and Minnesota,
The fertile fields of Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa to the wide open plains of North and South Dakota.
we are here for our hometowns.
And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
10 seconds.
The Illinois Army National Guard, aired by the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
Stand by.
WCPT 820, because facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. That was just a little bit of feedback here on today. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in Chicago and a beautiful day up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's Wednesday, May 24th, 2022, just a few days away from the kickoff to summer, Memorial Day weekend. And so I hope that you're getting ready, hope that you're going to have a wonderful Memorial Day. And I will be talking about the origins of that on Friday. And I cannot wait to be with you. Today, though, we're talking electoral politics 2024. What do you think will be the impact of Tim Scott? So many of you were interested in talking about this. I said, okay, we've got to not just carry over the discussion today, because I couldn't get enough of you on the air yesterday, and I want you to call. I want to hear what your thoughts are, because it's a dynamic race. And I think that the candidate that everyone is sleeping on is Tim Scott. The candidate that everyone is looking for is the hypothetical candidate, the person who we think can get Trump straight. Are you trying to get Trump straight, or are you trying to win the presidency? Which is it? And Tim Scott has a lot that is quite formidable. And of course, we are, as we move into the campaign, you're going to see the culture wars ignite. Where will black people line up? Don't think that black folks will just vote Democratic. It's not. People are not doing that anymore. Nobody. We saw that happen in this mayoral race here. It was an ideological race. There were some whites who voted for Brandon that you did not expect to vote for him, and there were some blacks who voted for Paul Vallis who you did not expect to vote for him. You're going to see a lot of that. It's going to be dynamic. So I want to know what your thoughts are, because, of course, Ron DeSantis is supposed to announce today that he is running for president, with Elon Musk conducting the interview on Twitter. So got a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. And, of course, we're going to have Dr. Shanina Knighton with the latest and the greatest on health. And so everybody, let's get to some of these headlines. Right here, everybody. Ron DeSantis, as I said, is slated to officially announce his 2024 presidential campaign today, and he's doing it via Twitter. He's planning a conversation with the Twitter owner, Elon Musk, and so we will see how all of that goes, everybody. President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are getting warnings from their respective parties about holding the line on looming debt ceiling talks. Progressive Democrats want Biden to unilaterally raise the debt ceiling through the 14th Amendment, avoiding a potentially catastrophic U.S. default. Some hardline Republicans have insisted McCarthy shouldn't accept anything less than the conservative debt ceiling proposal already passed in the House. Now, many people are citing polls that are saying that Americans want a debt ceiling with the proviso that we have spending cuts. That's not quite true. If you really read the polls, they're saying, number one, we want you to lift the debt ceiling, and we want spending cuts. There is a difference, everybody. More than 450 adult Catholic clergymen abused nearly 2,000 children in the state of Illinois over a period of almost 90 years, according to a report released by our Attorney General, Kwame Raoul. The findings feature detailed accounts of alleged sexual abuse and lists of the accused clergymen, as well as recommendations to improve future investigations, keeping churches accountable, and supporting survivors. One has to wonder how it is that they were able to keep all of that criminal behavior within the church and it did not get to the state. Something to be said for that. Maybe because the Catholic Church is actually a state. Chicago will have a high of 63 degrees. It'll be mostly sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 76 degrees, partly cloudy. And in the NBA, well, the Celtics saved themselves last night. They prevented a sweep. 116, the Celtics, the Heat 99. The Heat still lead that series 3-1. They are one game away from the finals, or maybe they are three. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Last night was a shocker, and it was an excellent, excellent game. In the NHL, the Golden Knights 4. The Stars were shut out, everybody. The Golden Knights lead that series 3-0. Perhaps they will be getting to that Stanley Cup final. The Hurricanes will be playing the Panthers tonight. We will see what's going to happen there. In the WNBA, yes, it is that time of year, everybody. The Dream 83, the Lynx, Minnesota 77. Better luck next time. In Major League Baseball, the Giants 4, the Twins 3, the White Sox will be playing the Guardians today, and the Cubs, well, they had a great day, 7-2 over the Mets. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. We have got, of course, Pastor Vicki Johnson with us today, giving us some good news. We certainly do need it. There's so much going on, Pastor Johnson.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
How can we worship with you on Sundays?
You can worship with me at Lebanon Lutheran, 13100 South Manor Street in Hagwish at 9 a.m. and at St. Thomas Lutheran on 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard at 11:30 a.m. for our Hour of Power, and we can also be seen on Facebook Live.
Oh, wonderful. What is the good news?
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. Do you ever find it hard to make decisions? It might be something simple, like which flavor of ice cream, black walnut or butter pecan?
Oh, you Mabel
cream?
Walker. Gosh. Oh.
Okay, I took you back. Took you back.
Flashback.
Pralines and cream or Jamocha almond fudge. Put it on a cone or in a cup, 1 scoop, 2 scoops. Eat it now, save it for later. Decisions. Seniors, students that is, had prime decisions to make. Date or no date, which is the end thing now. Dress or pants. Dress shoes or gym shoes. Car or limo. Then they also had some very tough decisions to make this spring about which school they would attend. An Ivy League.
Dr. Knighton is on.
CU. In-state, out of state. Junior college to save money, or a 4-year institution. Go now or take a gap year. Every day of our lives, we are faced with making decisions. Things as simple as what to wear or as complex as career changes. Here are some tips to guide your decision making. First of all, don't let stress get the better of you. You can stress yourself out when making decisions, and it can overtake you, even causing you to become ill. Secondly, give yourself some time. Sometimes we wait until the last minute. Instead of waiting till the last minute, you know that there is a decision that has to be made. So give yourself time to make it. Thirdly, weigh the pros and the cons. What's in favor for you? What is not? What do you like about it? What do you dislike? Fourth, think about your goals and your values in regards to the decisions that you are making. 5, consider all of the possibilities and the options. I work puzzles. They say that it keeps the mind sharp, the Sudoku, or however you pronounce it. Mm-hmm. And when I'm working it, I come to a dead block, and I can't find any more ways to arrange the numbers. I put it down, and then I come back to it the next day, and immediately upon looking at it, I see where that 8 goes or that 7 was missing, because I have given myself the opportunity to consider the possibilities and the options. Then 6, talk it out. Talk it out with yourself. Who better to talk it out with than yourself, and also with others that you trust. And then lastly, write your thoughts down. Sometimes we just think things in our heads and those thoughts are fleeting. Why not write it down so that when it comes time to make that decision, you will have it on paper and can see clearly where to go. Once you have done your work and your decision is made, stick to it and move on. Hardly anything is more powerful than a made-up mind. In James, the 1st chapter, in the 8th verse, it says that a double-minded person is unstable in all of their ways.
Absolutely.
Be stable. Have a made-up mind. Reverend Marvin Yancey, whom we love and honor as a great songwriter, wrote a song, and the refrain says, "My mind is made up. I'm on my way up. I'm going to hold my head up, moving on with the Lord." Do the work to make decisions that are going to work for you. Have a made-up mind and move on. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen. Boy, Mabel Walker and Marvin Yancey. And these are 2 of our stalwarts, one of the founders of 2. I mean, indeed, they helped to found Operation Push. Mabel Walker ran the membership department. And her daughter, Aline Walker, was, of course, along with Dwight McKee. They were the youngest founding board members of Rainbow Push. Aline, a brilliant biologist, and she worked as an actuarial scientist in the insurance industry, and we just love Aline so much. And we love Reverend Marvin Yancey. Yeah, that Marvin Yancey, the one who's married to Natalie Cole, who wrote her hits. Yes, he was her choir director. That's right. He was the minister of music. Boy, oh boy, we had to. And then, of course, James Cleveland wrote our theme song, right? The push is on. There you go. The push is on. There's work for us to do. The push is on. The push is on. The job is up to you. We can make it a better place. We can make it a better place to live in right now. Can we count
we count on you? That's it.
Oh, I love it. I love you. God bless you. And thank you for that word this morning. That was truly good news. Pastor Vicki Johnson, everybody.
Yeah.
Once again, how can we celebrate with you this Sunday?
Lebanon Lutheran Church, 13100 South Manistee in Megwish, and St. Thomas Lutheran, 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard at 11:30 a.m. Both can be seen on Facebook, but you can also join us in person as we celebrate Pentecost this Sunday.
Amen, everybody. All right, we have got Dr. Shanina Knight, an infection preventionist, with us today. We're so excited to have her, and she wanted to pick up on what she was talking about yesterday. And of course, she would do that because we're going into the cookout season. I know if the weather's warm enough, you all will be barbecuing and eating out and hanging out this weekend because summer kicks off on Memorial Day. Well, you know, at least it kicks off culturally on Memorial Day. But what should be the best practices when we're out and all of, oh my word, and all of that? So, you know, let's talk with you about that, Dr. Knighton, because the question is, how do we navigate through this process? Because we no longer have the emergency order of COVID in place. But COVID, RSV, colds, strep throat, all that stuff is still out here. Dr. Knighton?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely it is. And one of the things, that I was bringing up yesterday is how important it is for pay attention to the infection prevention and control practices of others. Meaning so often we're focused on what it is that we're doing, that we don't realize that potentially someone else's lack of habit may be impacting us. So, for example, when you are going out, I was bringing up being out at fast food restaurants.
Oh, hold on one second. I want you, Alex, to turn me down, because my printer's going crazy today. And I want people to hear you. I know, it's me. It's me. It was offline, now it's back online. But I want to hear from you because we need to know, what the best practices are because, we've forgotten what we learned or what we were beginning to put into practice 2-3 years ago. And now, here we are.
That's it. And so the thing is, Santita, it's a fine balance with everything, right? So we went from a place of where somebody was holding in a sneeze or a cough because they were scared to sneeze or cough around you, to now people just being back to, coughs and sneezes are normal. When in fact, we're going back to normalizing being sick when we don't have to. So it's not to say that every time someone sneezes or coughs is a cold, but I would be paying attention to their etiquette. Meaning, if you are out in public and you know that you are getting ready to get food, the person that's doing your food, are they sneezing and coughing in their hands? Are they putting it securely in the elbow? Are they making sure that none of the droplets leave their elbow or leave their nose and is landing on your food? These are all important things to consider. If you are going inside of one of those build your own meal sort of restaurants, it is important that as they are building your food, that they are not conversating with their colleagues, like right next to them or their coworkers right next to them, while they're talking over the active food that's open. It is important to note, are they touching the same handles and spoons while they're also, let's say, maybe wrapping your food, whether it's a sandwich, a wrap, or something else, or are they actively touching your food? And then the other thing is how are they interacting with their phones? I've said it before, I'll say it again, that phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. And oftentimes, individuals out of habit will be talking on their phone or fiddling with their phone while they also may be interacting with your food. Whatever contaminants that they have on their phone, whether that phone was in the restroom in the restaurant, whether it was inside of their car just laying on the seat, those contaminants are now on your food. And it is a hard reality that we tend something to think about, but it's just making sure that we're paying attention to behaviors when we're out of what others are doing. I also just want to bring up as well that one of my biggest pet peeves, and I said, Santita, I'm a TikTok this because it bothers me so bad, is that when you go and get takeout, someone takes that plastic container of ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, whatever is in that cup, syrup, and they sit it directly on the food that you're going to have to consume, but their hands have touched that cup, along with the fact that it could have been laying on the floor and you may not know. This is a lived reality, unfortunately, and what happens is people sometimes think that it is their food making them sick, but in fact, it may be the handling of the food. So I remind people, yes, paying attention to infection prevention and control practices of ourselves is important, but it also means holding each other accountable in order for us to be able to lead to true behavior change that will keep us all safe.
Oh my gosh. I can't even get ketchup now. Dr. Knighton, what?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Just tell them not to put it inside of your food.
And then what do you do? Then what do you do? Do you wipe it off?
No, you just make sure that they don't sit it on top of your active food. Like, that is the number one big thing to pay attention to, is it's not on top of your food.
Okay, and then you can open it and then put it on your food.
That's it. But after you open it, I will clean your hands because you touched your container.
Okay. There you go, everybody. Go to Hey.
That's it.
Go to Hey Dr. Nina, and she's going to TikTok it. So HEYDRNINA, so that you can be as safe as you can possibly be. You know, you're going to have to repeat this tomorrow and the next day and Friday. Did you know this? Okay.
That's fine. And I'm excited, so I'll give a step-by-step tutorial.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820. Let's talk about election 2024. Do the Democrats have a lock on the black vote? What about Tim Scott? What about Ron DeSantis? I want to hear your thoughts. Just put it out there, everybody. We even have Linear Bob and Chappelle Wells, two of our morning stars, will be on the panel today. And there's a place for you too. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Whew. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to open the ketchup? Like, what
yeah, so it ain't that you're supposed to open it. So look, it's just that when they put it in a container, you say, please put that in a separate bag or make sure that it's not directly touching my open food.
Okay.
Make sure they don't sit it in the same box with it. And then what I tell people is remove your condiments and then clean your hands. So that way you know that the packaging for which your food has been handled in. So you take all of the food out of the thing, and then you clean your hands, and then you start eating. Because you would then start at least decreasing the risk of germs that potentially are on the outside of the containers of your packaged food.
Okay.
So it's just a method to making sure that you decrease the risk.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh. You know, you make me feel like I'm with my grandmother and my Aunt Connie, who's a nutritionist. But you know, her health is excellent at this point. I mean, so what can I say? I mean,
Mr. McKee's on.
Okay. Dwight McKee, how you doing?
Pretty fair. How you doing this morning?
Oh, I hope you're doing better than fair. Goodness gracious. Come on now.
Just tell them I it's pretty fair.
No, just not us. Lift that up so people can, so we can go on and keep this thing moving forward. And Dr. Knighton is right there. Dr. Knighton.
Dwight, how are you? I was just saying, hey, Dwight, we were talking at the same time. How you doing, Doc? I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Pretty fair. Good to hear from you.
Miss Wells is on.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm talking about fast food and condiments and just being out to eat and why it's important to understand that not everybody knows how to practice infection prevention and control. We got to stop assuming others are keeping us safe.
Whew. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. It's a lot to think about, but I'm telling you, my grandmother did that all the time, and maybe it's because she worked in the hospital. And that was part of it. She was really absolutely shaped by that. But also, black people were cleaners too, and we were just always quite fastidious about being clean, about keeping things clean. Because that's part of our legacy, and I'm proud of it. How about that? So, who else do we have here? Do we have Shapiro?
Attorney Connolly's on.
Okay, Attorney Connolly.
Good morning.
Okay, everybody. Okay, I'm going to do this, and that is going to be that.
We have a little less than a minute.
Okay, thank you so much. Did you see the report that the New York City is sinking under its own weight?
Yeah, that's been happening for a while.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, please don't take my other home away from me.
30 seconds.
Love New York. Love it. Okay, just play the music for 15 seconds more. Huh?
Santita?
Yes?
They'll be all right. They only pay They'll be all right. They only pay $24 for it.
10 seconds.
Did you say they stole it fair and square?
Stand by.
You can't make this stuff up.
They only pay $24.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, we are in the thick of election 2024. What do you think? Yes, that's my honey bun in the background, my little computer, my little chug called my printer. Pulling up a story that I found interesting. It's an opinion piece from the New York Times. It says that the Tim Scott candidacy would be a nightmare for Joe Biden. Why do you think that would be? Why do you think that would be? They point out a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the black vote and the cultural connections. Some people get it. That's why we brought this up yesterday, and so many of you were intrigued by this. It's not even about him defeating Donald Trump as much as it is cracking open the hold that Democrats have had on the Democratic Party. Let us be clear. When Reverend Jackson ran, he was not running to increase the Democratic Party. He was running to open up the process for everyone, because many of you know of some prominent black Republicans, Armstrong Williams, chief among them, who we were all in college. Armstrong's a little older than I am, but we were all in college at the same time. Well, he started Young Black Republicans for Jesse Jackson because they saw this as an opportunity to open up the process for everybody. You did not, up until Reverend Jackson's candidacy, have black people covering national politics for the networks. That did not happen. You didn't really see a lot of black Secret Service agents. Didn't happen. You didn't see black people having vendor contracts with the parties, with the Democrats or the Republicans. That did not happen. So Reverend did not do this to open up the Democratic Party. He did it to open up politics. Democrats were the vehicle because black people were Republican under Lincoln and up until, you saw a shift under FDR, then you saw another shift under LBJ. That's what happened. That's why Dr. King's father saying that he was going to support Kennedy was of such great moment, because they were Republicans. Black people were Republicans because they were on the side of the abolitionists, okay? So let's look at that. So this black Republican tie is really not as foreign, certainly in the black American experience and in the American project, as people try to make it out to be. It's not. So what about these cultural wars that are coming down the pike toward us? Where will black people line up? That's the question. So we got to talk about that. And what about Democrats. I mean, anytime the New York Times does a story that says a Tim Scott nomination would be a nightmare for Joe Biden, why would it be a nightmare for Joe Biden? Why? Why do you think that would be the case? And who do you think is going to be the nominee? Who do you think is going to be able to win this thing? What do you expect to see? I think a whole lot of things can happen in the next year. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And I want to see you at the Rainbow Push International Conference, July 15th through the 19th. We'll be talking about this issue and so many others. And just call me. Of course, we have got Dr. D, newly rechristened as Daddy D by, of course, C.K. Hoffler, who will be with us at the top of the hour on Legal Q&A with C.K. We'll be extending this discussion. Attorney Erin Connolly, of course, and Mrs. Shapiro Wells. Yes, she today is, she's part of the reason that we're doing this, because she and others called and said, look, we need to talk. I need another crack at this, because I didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday. So let me start with you, Shapiro, the Morning Star. What do you think is going to happen in 2024? And do you think that this man's candidacy, do you think that everyone's looking at DeSantis today, and they're looking past Tim Scott. Do you think that's smart?
Actually, I don't. I think that Tim Scott actually offers a unique look at both parties. I think he can pull some Democrats as well as also he can pull some Republicans, based on the fact that he's black, believe it or not, because he is able to run his state. And we know that when Biden actually got crowned, he got crowned in South Carolina. He got crowned because black folks voted for him. And they really didn't know. We were there in Santita, we were on the ground, and they really didn't know Biden's
in
record.
2020. In 2020, that's
Correct.
where we were. We went there just let everybody know we were there with Bedalia and with my mother. We drove down there because we felt that South Carolina was going to be the turning point for the campaign. We didn't know that it was going to turn quite the way that it did, right? Because Biden kept saying to us, "Wait for South Carolina. I got a surprise for you," and boy, did he.
Exactly. And what happened in that election is that we had the influence of Jim Clyburn. And now in South Carolina, you'll not only have that influence from Jim Clyburn, but you also have that state Senator Tim Scott, another black person who they resonate with because he's winning overwhelmingly in the state. And so now he may actually pull those black votes that may have voted for Biden last round into the Republican Party. So I think that, Biden has a disadvantage. His age is definitely something that is a problem. They want to sit up here and sugarcoat it like it's not. But his age is something that's very, it's going to hurt him. His age is going to hurt him. He doesn't have any new idea. He has not fulfilled any promises that he made to black Americans. Now, he's done a lot of things that are good, but the two things that we commanded of him was police justice reform, voting rights protection, and he has not done or touched that. And so he keeps saying he doesn't have, and I'm not the one to give anybody a pass. He could, if he just implemented the executive order, we are smart enough to understand that, hey, this is only going to last, as long as his term. But what that does is they say, hey, I see you, I hear you, I'm hearing you. And right now, Biden has not done that for black Americans. So right now, black people are disenchanted with him. And so they're looking at alternatives to what a candidacy, a second term for Biden would be. And for me, he's not saying anything appealing. And so we're looking at, Robert Kennedy. We're looking at also, Tim Scott. We're looking at all these alternatives. We may not select Trump. We may not select DeSantis, but there are other people out here that can be appealing to black people. And so I think that the Democratic Party needs to look at it fully and see and engage with Black Americans about what they want and what they need.
Attorney Erin Connolly.
Well, I think Chappelle brings up some really excellent points with regard to voter engagement, organizer engagement. I think some of the promises kept versus the promises we're pretending that we kept, right? And people are looking at this cycle, deciding where they're going to put their investment, deciding where they're going to put their energy as organizers and who they're going to spend their time working for. And when we look at the Democratic base, a huge, huge portion of it is a consolidated Black vote throughout the country. And if you lose even a tiny bit of that in certain counties, in certain states, it has a massive impact on the electoral vote. So it really is something that the Biden team is definitely watching closely. And I think with the emergence into the race of Tim Scott, that does create a different conversation. But ultimately, Tim Scott's party is not fully supportive of him or people who look like him either, right? So I think we're in a space where people are looking beyond just kind of the usual identity politics and are asking these deeper questions. I think historically, if we want to see what maybe we're up against, we could look to a Ross Perot situation where we have a Robert Kennedy or a Marianne Williamson who kind of emerge as a third-party alternative road for folks who are looking at this election and saying, in some cases, I don't think Trump can win at all, or I'm sick of both of them and I need a really clear alternative that is talking about and focusing on something different. That's what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing folks posting things from both of these candidates that from people I would not have expected to be openly supporting a third-party candidate or even considering that in a normal election cycle. So that, I think, is also interesting, right? That people are really hungry to say, I need something new. I need a new positive idea. I need to have a different level of this conversation. And it might make some folks uncomfortable, but the reality is people want more. And we're seeing that in all of these levels, right?
Not to interrupt, even though that's what I did, but it's really to engage. I think we've got to be very careful, particularly as it comes to Robert Kennedy, because as of a couple of weeks ago, he was polling at 20%, which is a lot, particularly given the fact that he's up against a headwind where, he's taking a beating from the party. I saw this happen with Reverend Jackson, and he was considered the alternative. I mean, because he's iconic now, but in real time, he was, well, if you want a third party, and I remember being in the dormitory at Howard University, my friends were furious because for the first time, we got polled when Reverend was thinking about running in 1983, right? And they would never mention Reverend as a candidate. They were like, he's weeks away from, I mean, this is like the most exciting stuff. This is the most exciting campaign that, I mean, this cycle, it turns out, maybe of the century even. And they wouldn't mention his name. They're doing the same thing to Robert Kennedy now. And I think it's a mistake because we can't just relegate people to being one-offs before we've had the run, before we've run at all. In fact, and everyone, I'm going to have Marianne Williamson on the show tomorrow. And I'm going to get Robert Kennedy on the show. And I'm going to reach out to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, and quite frankly, Tim Scott. I want to hear from everybody, and I think you all need to hear from everybody. But I think we got to be real careful with that, Erin, because they're not. First of all, for some people, Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy, they're not alternatives. They're their choice. Like, I choose you.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about that frame, we're looking at a American system where historically there is not institutional or groundswell of support for anyone outside of the Republican or Democratic ticket, the person that is chosen by both of those parties, right? So when I'm speaking about that, I'm talking about in that traditional sense where we're seeing poll numbers above 2 to 5%. That's a rare occurrence. So these types of conversations, I think, what can be perceived by the political mainstream as an alternative or issues that haven't come up before, right? Or issues that have a new importance now that COVID has come into our lives and is sticking around, right? I know that's a big point of contention with the Biden administration is the handling of that and where they stand currently on managing that crisis and all of the nuances that go along with that. So I know you speak about that issue quite often, Santita, and I think
if they would just say, if they would just say big business runs this place and they want y'all back to work and they want COVID behind us, I think if they came out and said that would be so refreshing, because COVID's still here. And if they would speak the quiet part out loud, I think that, we're attracted now increasingly to candidates who speak the quiet part out loud, who say, Elizabeth Warren says, hey, y'all, the game is rigged. Bernie Sanders shows you the game is rigged. I mean, it's just say it. Do it, y'all. Just please.
And we look at the popularity still of Senator Sanders, who, we talk about the age gap and the disconnect that folks feel from President Biden, but they love Bernie Sanders, who's also in his 80s and is pushing pharmaceutical reps to testify about the high cost of insulin and is holding people to account. So, we have to be careful when we use that blanket age argument, because Senator Sanders is very popular among young people.
They're not even being truthful about that. Bernie Sanders looks robust. And he had a heart attack, remember, during the last campaign cycle. He looks healthy. Biden does not. We need to be honest about that. Although the doctors say he's doing well, he's slower now, and you see that. And it's just like I just heard Robert Kennedy explain why he speaks the way that he does. He got sick. And as a result of his illness, it attacked his throat. It attacked his vocal folds and cords, and it changed his speech. Boom. Say it and then we can move on. just say it. Just say it. Dwight McKee, what are your thoughts? I mean, would a Tim Scott nomination be a nightmare for Joe Biden? That's what the columnists at the New York Times are saying.
Well, that's what I was saying yesterday. I hadn't read the article yet, and I'm interested in what he has to say. But absolutely. And here's why. For a couple reasons. One is, with these kind of elections, particularly black people have to be invigorated. And what invigorates them generally is either your energy or your ideas. It's obvious that Joe Biden does not have the energy. And it's debatable whether or not his ideas have been effective for black people. And so if you put somebody else in a race that has both energy and new ideas, it does become a real threat to a Joe Biden who is not as competitive. Now, it would not be as much of a competition to a to a Robert Kennedy, who has both energy and ideas, and is younger, and he can play in that game on that plane. But for a guy like Joe Biden, he needs another mundane, elder, slower competition to be compared to. That's why Trump really can work for him, because he and Trump are only 3, 4, 5 years apart. Whereas, he's in a different league when he's dealing with Tim Scott. The other thing that we really have not dealt with is that, you dealt with it kind of a little bit yesterday, is the conservative nature of Southern blacks, most of whom came out of the church. Culturally, they're not that different in many ways than the white evangelicals, because all of them come out of a church base. Now, they have some political differences and some different ways of how they see the world, But culturally, they all come out of the Bible Belt, and that's kind of a foundation for how they see the world. And with Tim Scott coming out that same world, he will have an appeal to that crowd that even Donald Trump does not have, because he does not come from that world. Joe Biden does not come from that world. And so, yeah, he can be a real viable candidate coming out of the South. That's why today, boy, you hear that there's not that big a difference between country music and the blues. You know, there's some chordal difference, but the experience are basically fundamentally the same.
Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Who do you think has the best chance to capture the Democratic nomination, the Republican nomination? Do you think Ron DeSantis will have impact? Do you think Tim Scott will have impact? I think it'll be very, very interesting to watch and to hear all of this. Chaparral, what do you think?
Santita, I think that right now the momentum is with everybody except Biden. And I'm being really serious about this, you know, because everybody is taking a look at the alternative. No matter what way it is and what party it is, but everybody is looking for something because Biden is missing something. He's not fulfilling them in some way, shape, or form. And so what we're seeing is that people are not satisfied. So what we saw when Trump was elected, that they were still looking and searching for something because these two parties, they were not doing it for them. The traditional parties, they were failing the American people. They were not fulfilling the promises. They were spending all the money to the rich, and the poor were getting poorer. So let's give this other person a chance because, heck, what do we have to lose? And this is what we're going through again in this cycle, is that they're saying, what do we have to lose? Let's look at all the candidates. And then the Democrats have made, what I believe, a huge mistake in not debating, not giving Biden that ground to be able to, because he's going to have to debate when he gets in the general election. And so if he is not prepping himself prior to that, that is going to harm him because he's already behind when it comes to the quickness and the response and everything like that. So now,
you have a caller.
If he's not preparing himself, I think that it's going to be a tragic situation when you think about a younger, and I hear you, Aaron, but the reality is the response time for Biden is slower. So if he goes up even against Trump, who is very quick-witted, he's going to get slaughtered on stage. And so we have to think about, and people worry about imaging more than content these days, and how we see how Howard Dean, he made a yell, and all of a sudden he's out of the race. You know, so if Biden fumbles on a national stage, he's out of the race because the people are going to take the other candidate who they feel can actually deliver, even though that they're not even promising anything. So it's all about optics. And Democrats need to actually think about what they're showing Americans. And they need to prep him. I mean, he is not ready. He is not stage ready. He's just not.
And Sapporo, don't miss that cultural piece, is that there is a congruency in black and white culture in the South that you can strike that nerve. Elvis Presley understood that. He said, if I can put a white face on black music, I can be the biggest star in the world. And he did. Culturally, he was black. His music was black. His face was white. But what they locked into was the dynamics of his culture, his musical culture, which was black America. And what I'm trying to say is Tim Scott has that same dynamic is that he can touch into the Southern culture of both those crowds of conservative Christian blacks and progressive and semi-conservative Christian whites. He can really be formidable that way. He can flip this thing by 20, 30, 40% easily.
Aaron, what do you think? I've got about a minute before I go to break.
Well, I think also we're not mentioning Nikki Haley right now either. And when we take a look at how Republican or independent women may split on this, who do have that cultural connection to faith and may be somewhat aligned with certain aspects of the GOP message, I think she may take more of these votes when they are all in the debate stage. So I think that's also going to be a factor here. We have debates on one side and we have no debates on the other. So, the Republicans have more chances to showcase their differences from Trump and show their differences from Biden, who will not have debates in the primary portion.
Well, and I think not debating is not smart. Debating is where you cut your teeth. There's something to be said for the primary season. You get tough during that primary season because you're toughened. Your opponents make you stronger. They do. And so, what do you think, though? I mean, are we missing something? Everyone's waiting for Ron DeSantis to enter the race, and the more we see him, the more he is slipping in the polls. I'm just curious. I mean, the more you see of him, you're like, I don't think so.
When you talk about optics, Ron DeSantis has had a rough couple weeks, and this announcement will be interesting. He's going up against Disney, one of the most powerful brands in the world, and we see huge economic losses coming from that as well. So
people don't like it. Bottom line, you know what you can be? You can have the most loathsome policies possible, which is what Reagan did. Reagan had horrifying policies, but guess what? He was a likable guy. Don't ever underestimate that piece. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, elections 2024. Who you got? I want to know. They say all these opinion columnists from the New York Times said Tim Scott, this nomination would be a nightmare for Joe Biden. They went right past Ron DeSantis. What do you think? 773-763-9278. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Joe in just a minute. Ooh. Y'all don't miss it.
Santita, you cannot fight against the mouth. The mouth is the king. Everybody loves the mouth. How you fight against the mouth?
Oh, my gosh. Well, he decided he wanted to be a culture warrior, so I'm like, okay, be my guest, sugar, on that. But even then, he's coming at it from the wrong perspective. I don't see the happy warrior, also known as Tim Scott. I don't see him taking a stance on the trans community. And I think that they'll have similar, if not the same stances. But he will do it in a way that's compassionate, which is going to be different, Aaron and Chaparral and Dwight. And, he has got that on lock. You heard CK yesterday say, look, I went in a post-George Floyd world, ready to do battle with this guy. And he has charisma. He was so likable. I was like, he put her off. It's hard to put off CK. She said, wait. I've seen Reverend do it. I've seen Bill Clinton do it. The best know how to do that. And their life circumstances have inclined them to that. Because my father grew up with an unwanted child, born out of wedlock, all of that. So all of his life, he's had to kind of be in between people and please people. Sometimes I think it goes too far because the pain for him is that deep.
Attorney Hoffler's on, but she's on mute.
Mm-hmm. And so all of that, but it helps you teaches you how to deal with people a particular way. You don't have a choice, right? I mean, you just, you kind of. I think we're sleeping on Tim Scott, and I think we're sleeping on the black community and their loyalty and liege to the Democratic Party. I mean, because the plurality of Americans, Aaron and Chaparral and Dwight, are now independent. They're sick of both parties. Hello? Y'all still there? Is everybody on mute?
Santita, you're right. They are sick of both parties, and they want something different because they realize that the corporations are the only person that's winning on both sides, and so the American people are losing this battle against the corporation, and so they're looking for change.
But they need to be careful about looking for change. You better be very specific about the change you want to get. Don't just look for change. Be very specific about what you want to have happen.
Reverend Hatch is on.
Pastor Hatch, how are you?
Good morning. How you doing, Miss Santita?
Doing great. I'm going to start rotating everybody in and out because I have a limited number of lines.
Sure.
So that we, I love these panels, but that having been said, I have a limited number of lines, but we certainly want to hear from you. Came across a story this morning in the New York Times. It was from the opinion page. They gathered several of their top opinion writers, Pastor Hatch, and the conclusion was that a Tim Scott nomination, this is the headline, would be a nightmare for Joe Biden, which is interesting because everyone's waiting for Ron DeSantis to come in today. I said, that's cute, but the more public he becomes, the more his numbers go down. People are not feeling him.
Right.
And you're hearing stories about him when he was in Congress and how, he was someone who was not necessarily very agreeable, to put it charitably. I like to say unkind things about people, even when, apparently they do things that are not very kind. I don't play in that sandbox. That having been said, you're beginning to see more of it. And people like a fighter, but you need to do it in a way where you don't look like you don't want to be bloodied in it. You want to be nice and kind,
Mr. Lampy's on.
I got that. I understand that. Kevin Lampy, how are you?
Good morning.
Good. Well, we have a wonderful panel. We have Chaparral Wells, who's one of our morning stars, who wanted to, I'm going to bring on Linear Bob at the bottom of the hour. He is part of our he's one of our morning stars. And, I always try to bring the morning stars in. Yvonne, we tried to reach you last night, and Renee. And if you don't want to be on one of these panels, just jump on in because, I believe in that. It's your show. But Kevin Lampy, we've got Pastor Marshall Hatch, Pastor Hatch. And we've got Dwight McKee and Chaparral Wells, Aaron Connolly, and, of course, we have got C.K. Hoffler, who is on mute at present.
I'm off mute now.
Okay.
Good morning, Santita.
Hello to everybody. Okay, Yvonne Hanks says, although I like President Biden, I feel that his time has come to move on, to make space for new energy. There we go with that term. Energy. It's the energy. And the thing is, he was not a strong candidate in 2020. Remember, before South Carolina, people were begging him to get out, y'all. And he ran for president twice before and could not make it into the primaries. He's never been a strong candidate for the presidency, ever. A strong senator, absolutely. That requires a different skill set, and don't sleep on that. But don't sleep on this. As the candidate, as a candidate for president, and you're seeing it.
1 minute.
Okay, everybody, you can hear everything in the background, so whatever you need to take care of it now. Please, okay, where is this?
Are you calling Kitty as well?
At 7:30.
7:30, gotcha. Okay.
I wanted to split you all up, not split you apart.
All right.
But get you,
Sounds
then
good.
get Kitty.
30 seconds.
That sounds good.
So CK, you need to prioritize Kevin Lampy and, of course, Pastor Hatch. Okay.
Okay. Do I have
10 seconds.
the roll? Do you have the list of
I will
everybody's
send
names?
that to you right now.
Stand by.
All right.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, can't wait, let's change the world. I am
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. The Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. Please meet us over there. Want to hear from you, and go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody, please go over there. Facebook has asked me to ask you all to go over there, or Meta. So please do that. I want to hear your thoughts today as we talk about election 2024. Who you got? What do you think is going to happen in this race? The New York Times, many of them, these opinion writers have said that the worst thing that could happen to Joe Biden is Tim Scott. Why do you think they said that? Well, they have their own reasons. And some other people are saying that he's the sleeper candidate. Everyone's waiting for Ron DeSantis, whose numbers are falling. The happy warrior, don't sleep on that. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and don't sleep on Robert Kennedy. He's already polling at 20%. And even as pollsters call and don't mention him by name, or they could purposefully exclude him. That is the crazy. Well, I saw them do it to Reverend Jackson. I'm just keyed in because I've seen this happen before, and it is a huge mistake. And now more and more people are clear on the game, and we're tired of it. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, because I have fewer lines. I'm going to have to rotate some of my guests out. That always breaks my heart to have to do that. But I need to open up the line so that we can get more of our callers in. But of course, it's Legal Q&A with CK, so we're going to get to that in a hot second as I get to these headlines, everybody. Today, Ron DeSantis is slated to officially announce his 2024 presidential campaign. He's doing it via Twitter. He will be interviewed by Twitter owner Elon Musk today. President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are getting warnings from their respective parties about holding the line on looming debt ceiling talks. Progressive Democrats want Biden to unilaterally raise the debt ceiling through the 14th Amendment, avoiding a potentially catastrophic U.S. default. Some hardline Republicans, however, have insisted that he shouldn't accept anything less than the conservative debt ceiling proposal already passed in the House, which would involve strict spending cuts. Much is being made of polls that are saying that Americans want spending cuts and a raising of the debt ceiling. But you got to read these polls carefully, everybody. The polls are saying they want the debt ceiling lifted, and then they want spending cuts. They don't want them to be tied. Think about that, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT in Chicago. We're going to have a high of 63 degrees. It is mostly sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 76 degrees, partly cloudy. In the NBA, wow. The Celtics held off the Heat last night, everybody, 116-99, but the Heat still lead that series 3-1. NHL, the Golden Knights 4, the Stars nothing. The Golden Knights lead that series 3-0, and all they need is one more win to get in the Stanley Cup Finals, everybody. The Hurricanes will be playing the Panthers tonight. In the WNBA, the Dream, 83, the Lynx, 77. And of course, the Chicago Sky had the night off. In Major League Baseball, the Giants 4, the Twins 3, the White Sox will be playing the Guardians tonight, and the Cubs 7, the Mets 2. Everybody, we are looking for financial freedom, even in this really, really tough economic environment. It is possible for you to buy a house. I want you to reach out to Team Hochberg. It's possible for you to save your home. Yes, it is. Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender, wants to help you to do that. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com, 56david.com, and look at their website. But I really think you need to call them. Let them know what your situation is. Be honest about it, and then they can help you. The more you tell them, the more honest you are, you increase your chances, everybody, of becoming a winner. If you are a first-time home buyer, that is to say, if you've not owned a home within the past 3 years, you need to call Team Hochberg. First-time buyers made up just 26% of the marketplace last year, down from 34% the year before, and much higher numbers in previous years. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have taken note of this, and so they want to incentivize first-time home buyers, people who've not owned a home in the past 3 years, with substantially lower rates. So if you're in the Chicago area and the total household income is below $105,700, you need to call Team Hochberg, because you might be eligible for this program. You might qualify for it, but you won't know until you call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. Now, this program, it could change at any moment because these rates could be raised. I want you to take advantage of it now, everybody. It might seem like you cannot own a home in this environment, but you can. I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com. Start generational wealth right now. Homeowners beget homeowners, so become the homeowner. And your children more than likely will be homeowners, and then their children, and so on and so on and so forth. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it, everybody. And of course, I welcome our new sponsor, Megant Financial aboard, Megant Financial. You do not have to be wealthy, have high net worth in order to have a financial advisor. In fact, they go after people who are in the middle class, who are working class, people who are the working poor, and they teach you how to build a retirement fund. That's right. They teach you how to handle your money. They help you to become financially literate. Go call them at 708-444-1090, 444-1090, area code 708-444-1090. Call them and have them help them to help you. That's right. And they'll be at the Rainbow Push Convention and conducting a financial literacy class, and I cannot wait for them to do that. Megant Financial, MEGENT.com, if you want more information. All right, CK, Legal Q&A with CK. We've been talking about this 2024 race. Of course, we're joined, we've got, of course, Daddy D, Dr. McKee, Dwight McKee. We've got Attorney Aaron Connolly. We've got, of course, Mrs. Chappelle Wells. But we are joined by Pastor Marshall Hatch here in Chicago and, of course, Kevin Lampe. And we're going to be rotating people in and out because we don't have enough lines. And CK, before we open this segment, let me bring up Anita. Anita, very quickly, what's on your mind today?
Santita, ever since before Trump ran the first time, I had asked Jonathan Jackson to get involved with the debate. It is clearly obvious white Americans do not know all the issues, not just blacks or anybody, not even themselves. So if the civil rights community is not in these debates, I don't trust any of it. It's going to be a waste of time, and I'm going to be like a dog chasing his tail. And that's how I feel. So I'm glad Jonathan is at least somewhere around with Jonathan Jackson so that things could get worked out. And I think they got rid of Jesse Jackson Jr. because I think he would have been the first black president.
Well,
and his civil rights and nonviolence didn't want that.
Well, I think they didn't want his politics, and the fact is, look, that's behind us. The fact is, you can see they didn't want Bernie Sanders. And it turns out Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. was going to be the head of a very, very powerful committee. And, he'd been told that he was going to become the U.S. Senator. That didn't happen. Those promises were broken. So just a lot of things happened. But, we keep on moving. He's writing books and going on, and now people have chosen to send Jonathan to Congress. So, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, yes.
That was my congressman, and he was making great progress in the South suburbs. All right, that was big because no black community is progressing, and people do look to Chicago for direction. And he was there. Big ones were there. Elijah Muhammad was there. There are people there moving Chicago and changing the whole world. So he was big, and they got rid of him. And I'm very angry because that was my congressman. I waited a long time to try to get crime and jobs in our community, get crime out and jobs in.
Look, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
I want it to happen again. All right.
All right. She is all over it. Attorney C.K. Hawthorne. There we have it. There we have it. And, and we're in a dynamic political climate. And so, now Tim Scott nomination, according to these opinion writers from the New York Times, they said it would be a nightmare for Joe Biden. We've got Kevin Lampe, of course, and Pastor Marshall Hatch, who have joined this panel for a short while. And we need to hear from them. But first, what are your thoughts? You're down there in the South, which is where most Black Americans live. And we're moving down there in a steady stream. We're going back to the South, interestingly enough.
Well, good morning, Santita. Good morning to our wonderful panel, our morning stars in the audience. Santita, I am here in Georgia, and we saw what could have happened, what almost happened with Herschel Walker. And I will say that we have to learn from what history is telling us. Herschel Walker was endorsed heavily by former President Donald Trump, the Republican machinery, unlimited resources, and he almost won. And without a doubt, it would have been a huge disaster for the state of Georgia and this country if he were now the sitting U.S. Senator. And that does not even take into account the extraordinary work that Senator Raphael Warnock did in the 2 years prior to that campaign. So we have to learn from that. Now, Tim Scott has the only thing that he has in common with Herschel Walker is that they're both African-American men. Let's just be very clear about that. From my standpoint, I've met both. I don't know either well, but I did sit in discussions with Tim Scott surrounding the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act with many others. And while I did not agree at all with his politics, I will say that he's very affable, he's very engaging, and that he's a force that we will have to reckon with. And the Democrats had better not take him lightly. I'm not saying he has a chance of winning. I'm saying you can't take him lightly. He's a sleeper, but his charisma and his ability to communicate with people, and particularly, we're in a climate where this country is divided, and even amongst the divisions, people are divided. So I think that the Democratic Party has got to look at things differently. He is probably one of those sleeper formidable candidates who's in the background, because I believe one way or the other he could be on the ticket. And that would be the Republican ticket. That would be very, very interesting. That could change the dynamic. And there are legal consequences, there are legal ramifications of him coming on board. So I would like it as a candidate. We talk about voter suppression. We talk about the voter suppression that's planned for the next presidential election. And I think we have to look at all these things. But I know that we've got Reverend Hatch, who's here, and he's going to have to leave soon. So I'd love to hear from him, from the new Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church in Chicago. I'd love to hear what he has to say about this.
Well, thank you, CK and Santita, and good morning to the radio audience. Yeah, I think the conversation the last couple of days has been very intriguing about Tim Scott, who, is a sort of unique personality, a Republican African-American senator from the South with this narrative as a born-again Christian is something obviously I think we're talking about it because the Democrats are going to have to take that very seriously. And it points to we have sort of looked at race in American politics in a way that as if it's kind of all-encompassing, when what has really emerged is in this age when we talk about intersectionality, that, his politics is something that can be very appealing in the Black community. I mean, I personally wouldn't ascribe to a Tim Scott presidency, but when I look at the way the ideological divisions are shaping up in this country, there's a very conservative, and I think Santita makes this point day after day, there's a very conservative underbelly or narrative in the black community that this is going to be somewhat appealing to some people. And, when you look at the over-reliance of the Democrats on the black vote, it won't take that much to really flip the country, the way the country is divided, in order to make a Tim Scott candidacy as either president or vice president something that can really turn the entire election. So, the Biden crowd needs to be very, very concerned.
And Kevin Lampy, CK. I just hope people are not sleeping on this. I mean, because when you said yesterday, before you bring on Kevin, you were in the meeting with him. I mean, in the heat of the George Floyd moment, and you said, "Wait a minute, nice guy."
But he wasn't what I expected. And I have to tell you, we're going to bring on Kevin because we want to hear his thoughts on this as well. But I will tell you, his narrative is going to be as follows. Look, I'm a boy of the South. I grew up, I know what police brutality is. I know what discrimination is. I know what it's like to feel like the other. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be poor. I'm a born-again Christian. I believe in God. So he's right there, just in that narrative, and I've heard him give that narrative. And that narrative, those are words of persuasion, because that's his personal narrative. He's not going to make it up. Other people make up stuff, claim there's something they're not. That's his personal narrative. And that is something that's going to appeal to an audience potentially in the African-American community and amongst other Democrats and amongst people who are on the fence and independents. We have to be very careful. But, it's important to hear. We've got such a tremendous panel. Love to hear from Kevin and see what Kevin has to say based on his experience. Kevin Kurth from Kurth Lampy Worldwide Public Relations, the political strategist as well. We'd love to hear, Kevin, what you have to say about this from your vantage point and what Tim Scott brings to the table that people don't recognize and realize. Kevin?
Senator Scott will not get out of the Republican primary. The voters that are showing up in Republican primaries are so far right, are so far they are aggrieved, they are angry, and they are. It's so frustrating because the Republicans have put themselves in this box where they're racist, where they're sexist, where they are the party of the angry white man, and there's just not enough. And a lot of Republicans aren't showing up for Republican primaries now. Tim Scott is a much more attractive candidate in the general election than he is in the primary, and you have to get through the process. And I do not see the Republican primary voter across the country is not going to show up and support Senator Scott. They're going to. I still think they're going to stick with Donald Trump until the day he is sent to prison. I do not see. I'm not concerned from a Democratic vote point of view. I'm not concerned about Senator Scott's candidacy. I always know we'll take it seriously. Always got to be ready because we didn't take Donald Trump's candidacy seriously, and they gave us 4 years, and more importantly, gave us the Supreme Court that's taking our liberties.
CK?
Well, I can tell you, what about, and Kevin, let me ask you this, what about a Trump Scott ticket?
I don't think
don't see that either.
Yeah, you know what? I don't see Trump accepting that. I don't. Trump his ego is way too big to be able to accept that ticket. He wants. That's why he went with Pence. He went with somebody that was meek, that was not a leader, that was incapable of speaking truth to power. That does not work for Donald Trump's personality, and I don't see it happening. Because I see that the Republican convention under Trump is going to be just like it was last election cycle, where it was just a airing of grievances that showed no positivity and no future, no vision for where the country should be going.
So what do you think about, is Biden strong enough? I mean, I was looking at the UVA study from Larry Sabato, and his numbers are just so weak, Kevin.
So I have some 40-plus years of analyzing and looking at polling, and a couple points to make. In a two-person race, when there's a binary decision, you're going to get 30% is going to go with whoever the secondary candidate is. 30% just you start off with that, and so I don't buy any of that. You're going to win with 55. Because the vote is going to be fine. I don't see that happening.
Well, you know what, CK, we're going to be right back with Kitty Kurth, the better half of Kevin Lampy, and Linear Bob, our morning star.
Absolutely.
Stay right there, everybody. Who you got in this election cycle? Right here on Legal Q&A with CK. Are you going to be on Court TV today, CK?
I will be on Court TV later this afternoon.
What time?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock Eastern time.
Eastern Standard Time.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody, please check out CK on Court TV at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. More on the Santita Jackson Show. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. We want to know what your thoughts are about election 2024. Can you believe it's here already? I feel like we've been litigating 2020 forever. But we're here. July 15th through the 19th. We'll be here before you know it. What time is that? The Rainbow Push International Conference. Go to rainbowpush.org. Go on and find out about the conference, get involved, and get registered. And please call us at 773-FREEDOM. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. CK, are you on speaker or are you on headphone?
I'm on. Well, I just went on speaker, but is this
okay? That's
now,
much better. You sounded very, very far away. It was hard to make you out. Not barely make you out, which is hard to make you out.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. I switched to speaker, but this is. I always try to. But if this is good, then I'll keep it right here.
This is much better. This is much better. Alex, how many do we have any lines open?
We have one line, and I'm using it to call Miss Kurth.
Okay, and that means all the lines will be closed, right? So we wouldn't be able to get Linear Bob?
Yeah, I would need one more open line.
Okay, no, we actually need a couple open lines. Aaron, if you don't mind, pardon me, I'm going to have to ask you to go, but because I need to.
Well, Santita, gotta wake up the kid.
Who?
Santita, I can connect. Everybody. I can connect on my open line.
Good.
If they call
can
into
we
my,
do that before you take down to school? Aaron? She does that.
And so what I'll do.
She has your number,
Aaron,
right?
I will text. Yeah, but I can either do this. I have a call-in line where I can have unlimited people on that, and then I can connect them, or I can
that would be
Aaron
great.
right away.
That would be great because then I could push.
Okay,
I could push Aaron and Chaparral and Daddy D.
Okay. What I'm going to do, Santita, I'm going to right now send you my call-in, and then you can just
send that to me, and then I will send that to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Miss Kurth is on.
Doing it right now.
Kitty?
Good morning.
Hey. Hold on, stand by. Send that to me. I'm going to do it that way.
Okay, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to do on my other line is I'm going to call in, and then I'll connect them. After the first person calls in, I'll connect you guys. Okay?
And so they should call. They should call you. They should call this number.
No, call that number, the 605.
Yep.
And then,
I got you.
Got it. So I'm going to call it right now.
Okay.
And
let me see. Chaparral, I'm going to send it to you. I'm not going to send it to Dwight because Dwight is all thumbs. I'm going to send it to you, Pastor Hatch, because you're not all thumbs. Mm-hmm. Because I gotta let the let me. Huh. What is this? Okay. Okay, so Aaron and Chaparral, you all can. Okay, someone. We can hear some breathing.
It's probably me.
Probably me.
Okay. Okay.
Kevin and Kitty will quick breathing.
I'm trying to make sure that everybody's all right. Okay.
We have Mr. Bob on, and we seconds.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so what I need you to do, Reverend Hatch, Chaparral and Aaron, hang up. I'm sending a number to you right now that you all need to call, okay?
All right, thank you.
Hang up right now and just call that number. Thank you. Linear Bob?
Yes, good morning.
It's wonderful that CK, this is
10 seconds.
Glorious morning stars. We're so excited to have him. You know, he has to have a seat at the table. So there we go.
Bye.
All right, coming up. Thank you, Alex.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today here on Wednesday, May 24th, just before Memorial Day. That's right, kicking off the summer. Boy, things are about to get started. They're about to get hot because we are in election 2024, CK. And of course, we have got... you'll be looping Pastor Marshall Hatch and Attorney Aaron Connolly and Mrs. Chaparral Wells back in. Of course, we still have Daddy D. And we've got Linear Bob. I'm so excited to hear Linear Bob. And, of course, Kitty Kurth. And we have Kevin Lampy. Woo! It's a party. But I want everyone to call us. Yvonne, you can call in now because we now have some lines that are open. 773-791-97... 773-763. WCPT 773-763. WCPT 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Want to hear what your thoughts are on this, on all of these candidacies. Who do you have? Who you got? Who you got? I mean, is Biden strong enough? Is he strong enough? What do you think about that? What do you think about Tim Scott? Everyone's waiting on Ron DeSantis to announce today. But the longer he's out here, the more his numbers go down. We're finding out that with the polling, Democratic voters are not even asked about Robert Kennedy. I think that's a huge mistake, y'all. It's a huge mistake. I saw him do it with Jesse Jackson in 83 and 84 and 87 and 88. And he absolutely shocked the world when he got 56% of the Michigan vote in a 6 or 7 man field. So I wouldn't do that if I were you. Wouldn't advise it. So call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT CK. We're welcoming onto the show Linear Bob. He's one of our original morning stars, and Kitty Kurth. Joining this wonderful panel.
Good morning. Good morning.
You have a new caller.
And so, Linear Bob, I'd love to hear his perspective on this. I mean, I think we have a lot. We have a lot to unpack.
Well, yes, and I think we do have a lot to unpack. I have to say, first off, I'm 80 years old. I'm almost the same age as President Biden and Bernie Sanders. And if you stretch a little bit, some of the other people are in the same age category. I don't know if we should be carrying the mantle at this point. I think retirement really is when you're at this age. I mean, I wake up, I don't hurt, and I get up and help other people and all that.
But I have a good friend who had a stroke not very long ago, and it was very sudden, out of the blue, nowhere. All of a sudden, a stroke, and serious disability as a result of that. And I'm saying I think that may be happening or could happen with President Biden. That could happen with Donald Trump. I mean, they're both pretty old too. But I come from a working class. I was a union shop steward, and I don't see somebody representing working people. I don't see anybody representing, and I was an active person when I was a college student, and I don't see young people being represented, the really young people. I see them being excluded every way possible. Oh, you can't use your student ID from your college. That doesn't work for registering to vote. But you have a gun permit? Oh, sure, you can register with that. Things like that going on. So I'm very concerned. To me, this is an election of the lesser of two evils again, and I really have to hold my nose. I would vote for Mr. Biden, but reluctantly.
Why would you be reluctant?
Well, because I want somebody with more energy, and I want somebody about 20 years younger. That's what. And maybe like a 20 years ago Bernie Sanders. That's what I would like.
But the country wasn't ready for him then, right?
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I also think we've got a little problem in terms of, and you've identified it. That we're hearing biased news reporting. We're not hearing about Robert Kennedy because who's deciding what to select in the news stories? People that have a bias, and they're saying Kennedy and Marianne Williamson. We're not going to hear about them. It's going to be filtering before, and we've got a central committee or whoever that is in the Democratic Party who said no debates. I'm really disappointed with that too.
CK, heard a lot.
Did hear a lot, and the age factor is a factor, but it was a factor actually affected in the last presidential elections with both Biden and Trump. So I think that's going to be a factor, and people are going to again hold their nose. You accurately pointed out, Santita, President Biden was not a strong candidate the last time around. He became right, and he was 1 foot out of the race, and we know what happened in South Carolina, and we know how he was saved and how his campaign was saved. But I know that Paul from Seattle is holding Santita. And Paul, do you have any comments on the polling numbers for Biden and Trump? Is Paul on the line?
I'm here.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. I have to say something here. Let's think about something. Joe Biden's polling numbers. Let's think about it a little differently. These are not his polling numbers. These are not his numbers. These are our numbers. These are our numbers as a nation. And I have to tell you, if we're worried that a convicted sexual assailant who's still facing 30 criminal felony counts and more indictments to come is still a threat to this nation, I feel like I'm reading the minor prophets of the Old Testament. Oh, woe to ye, Israel. Come on. Is this where we really are?
Yes.
Is this where... Okay, then you know what? If that's the threat we're facing and that's what we get, I tell you what, pride cometh before the fall. Just read the Proverbs. That's what we damn well deserve. It really is. It really is. Let's shift the blame to where it belongs, and that's on us. That's on us. If that's how far we've let our nation slip down, take a look in the mirror. Take a look in the mirror. Donald Trump, he never won. I don't even think he won in 2016. But if that's how the degradation that we have in our society, that this guy is still a threat politically, and Joe Biden, I really think what the polls are measuring is not so much approval rating, is just how disgusted everybody is with the entire process.
And because if you want to measure my polling, my personal polling, mine is even, as you can hear, even worse than that. It has nothing to do with my dissatisfaction with President Biden. It has to do with my dissatisfaction with the integrity of. I mean, somebody said earlier this week, anybody who was found, I'm talking even in a civil case, found liable of sexual assault in past times, how recently would that just be have to completely disqualifying? I mean, Santita, in 1984, when Reverend ran, remember what happened to Gary Hart? He had a girlfriend on a boat. Oh my gosh, the end of him.
She wasn't even a girlfriend. She was a woman he was messing around with. I mean, get out of here. I mean, and no one cared. I mean, and it was always ridiculous. But look, then you did have Sally Hemings in the White House with Thomas Jefferson. This ain't new.
Exactly. So that's right. And now we have absolutely no standards. So we should really be worrying about ourselves as people, as Americans, because all of this is a reflection of who we are. And like I said, I mean, you know the scriptures better than I do, Santita, but I know enough about it to know that this is about us. This isn't about the powers that be. The powers that be are a reflection of what we're allowing them to be. Yeah, what we're allowing them to be.
Well, they exist because like you said, we allow it. I mean, CK, I think he makes a great point. And, it has been said that a nation gets the leadership that it deserves. But, I tell you, Kitty Kurth and Kevin Lampy, CK, have been out on the hustings. I mean, there's really, in terms of political organizing and really working through crises and campaigns. And I think that, you have crisis creates opportunity. I think that we need to hear from Kitty Kurth, CK. Because it's absolutely. I think this is just anybody's guess is what's going to happen here.
Thank you, Santita. I've got a couple of things to say about Joe Biden. First of all, I am a young senior citizen, and I've got a lot of energy. And on the days when I'm out working with Joe Biden, I can't keep up. He is physically in amazing shape. He's mentally in amazing shape. I think people try to make fun of or take it, or poke fun at his stutter, which he's had all his life, which I think is a shitty thing to do. Sorry, I just swore on the radio. But
it is.
But, he has more energy. He is the president that has been elected with more votes than any other president, and he is the president who has done more legislatively in his term than any other president. So, like Linear Bob, I'll take an energetic 80-year-old like Linear Bob or like Joe Biden over a lazy 50-year-old any day, because Joe Biden has passed more legislation in his term, which is not even up yet, than any other president, period.
Okay. Alex caught the swear, so that's a good thing.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It wasn't a bad one.
It's all right. So we're now accustomed. It is all right.
And Santita, and I think you're making excellent points. And it's good to hear that, because people do need to know about perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think what's happened is I don't believe that a lot of Americans appreciate some of the wonderful things that President Biden and his administration have done. There's not great marketing of that message. It's not getting out. But I would like, we've got Daddy D on the line, Santita. We call him Daddy D. Uncle Dwight, Uncle D. Daddy D. And he was just a phenomenal, a visionary, a political scientist, a civil rights leader, an activist, and just a someone who's iconic. So, Daddy D, how would you respond?
Daddy D, gee whiz. Oh, my gosh.
I think what everybody said today is true, except it's off the point. And the point is, what does Tim Scott bring to the table? That's the conversation. And Tim Scott brings his own dynamic. And that's why I compared him to Reverend Jackson and saying he could do for the Republican Party what Reverend Jackson did for the Democratic Party for the same reason. Because he is not 80 years old. Because he does have charisma, as you stated. Because he does not have the scandals. Because he professes to be a born-again Christian. Because he is the only black senator in the Republican Party, which is quite an accomplishment in 100 years. Because he brings to that party in that race those people who are, for the same reasons that Kevin them talked about, are dissatisfied with everything that's out there. The reason Obama made such an impact was the same reason. He was new, he was fresh, he had new ideas, he was charismatic, he had a great family, and people said, we would like this to be the real spirit of that which represents the country. Well, that's the same thing that Tim Scott brings, and he is more culturally connected to black people than Obama was. Let me do that one again. Tim Scott is more culturally connected to black people and many white Republicans in the South than Obama was. And so he can bring a whole nother influence and a whole nother momentum to that party, so in such a way that given the division in the country, that becomes the difference in the campaign. Whoever is at the top of the ticket, whether it's him, whether he's the vice president with Trump being on top, whether somebody else emerges at the top or somebody becomes the vice president under him, it becomes a whole totally different race. And I want us to understand what we're really discussing. We're not discussing Joe Biden, and we ain't discussing Donald Trump. We're discussing Tim Scott, and he brings something different.
Well, does anyone want to respond? I mean, Kitty, Kevin?
Well, I have to echo what Kevin said earlier. Tim Scott's biggest is getting out of a Republican primary. We know that in a general population, Tim Scott would have a much more support than within the Republican primary. There just aren't enough non-Trump voters in a Republican primary to get Tim Scott out of it, and it's too bad. He's got a lot of everything Dwight said is true. He's smart. He's energetic. He's actually a really nice guy. I talked to him years ago when his first term in office, he invited Carol Moseley Braun to come and speak in South Carolina for Martin Luther King Day. He's a very nice man. He is not afraid to reach across the aisle, but I don't think that sells in a Republican primary.
Did Camilla did the Vice President Harris get out of the Democratic primary?
Yeah.
No. He invigorated the party. He brought in black women to the party, which made the total difference in both Biden's election and the total campaign. So you all get stuck on the primaries, but I'm saying to you, he becomes a viable candidate because once they see what he brings to the party, then Trump or whoever's running can just pick him to put him on a ticket, and then all he brings come with him, and that's what I'm looking at.
They absolutely could, but they won't because they don't have that much vision. Donald Trump would be absolutely frightened to have someone with that much charisma on his ticket. He would never pick him. Donald Trump is too scared.
But see, I'm wondering if a Tim Scott, given the fact that he is a black man who, black folks learn the dance now, and you are accustomed to code switching. And he's clearly an ambitious man who has goals. And he has had, first of all, he had to put, well, not first of all, let's be clear, he had to put himself in the position of having Nikki Haley jump over everybody in the world to choose him to go to the U.S. Senate. He's got a skill set. He is a heck of a politician. So I'm just wondering if he would, because he could, because remember, Trump welcomed him to the race yesterday. I am just mindful of the fact that for whatever reasons, and I'm sure he has them because he is a politician and a marketer, Trump has avoided criticizing and belittling some groups, black Americans chief among them. He knows that's a lose-lose proposition.
And it really covers
New caller.
blank for Trump and the Republicans, and that is the issue of race. I mean, it's very difficult to call Trump a racist if he ends up selecting a Tim Scott as a running mate, and it really sort of removes the whole geographical piece off the table, and then you have the ability of Tim Scott basically neutralizing the race issue in the campaign, and he becomes a very useful symbol, for the Republican Party and for a guy like Donald Trump in particular. So it really just bears watching.
I love the way you think, but how does Trump sell it to his white supremacist Proud Boy base?
You know what? White people don't mind you, because I know the Republicans came for Reverend 50 years ago. They don't mind you being a Republican weight. They don't mind you being, because I saw this even as a child happening, and my parents explained it to me. Well, let me say this, Kitty. They don't mind you. But as long as because they want you to absolve them of any racial and racist responsibilities. And if you just,
Santita, we're not talking about normal white people.
No, we are.
Supremacists.
No. It's not just because. Yes. Because I think we are talking because 2/3 of Trump's voters made $50,000 a year or more. Most white people voted for him, and they lied when they say that they didn't. They didn't. I mean, they voted for him for a whole lot of reasons. Not all of them are raging racists, ready to lynch us after church.
But Santita, I think it's even more basic than that. Trump wants to win. Now, the one thing that I will say about him, and I don't admire much about him, let me just say that, at all. In fact, I disfavor most aspects of him. But the one thing I will say about him, he's in it to win it. And you talk about holding his nose. He may not like Tim Scott, but what Tim Scott can bring to the table would cause Donald Trump to say to his base, who are so loyal, many of them, whether they're crazy or not, they want to win. Because when he gets into office, he will pardon all those people in jail who were involved in the January 6th events, the coup d'etat. He will pardon all of them. He will pardon other people who are in jail, who have been doing this. And so people will hold their nose if Donald Trump says, this is what we have to do. That's what I believe. It's real basic. He wants to win. And if Tim Scott is the way for him to win, he will put Tim Scott on that ticket. I just don't see that ultimately, now Tim Scott's going to have to work to get there, to persuade to get there, but if Donald Trump sees him as the way to win, it's going to be Tim Scott on his ticket every day. Whether Tim Scott is strong enough, because the vice president, Trump will put him in a box when he's vice president like other presidents do to vice presidents. So I'm less concerned about that and him dealing with a strong African-American candidate. He wants to win. He wants another 4 years so that all the work that he did the first time, if there's any little bit that he hasn't finished, he will finish and put the nail in the coffin on civil rights, on human rights, on women's reproductive rights, on everything that's important to the vast majority of this country. He will do that in the next 4 years. So if Tim Scott is the ticket to doing that, he will do that.
And he will help him
The
do
voters
it.
know that
And Tim Scott will help him.
And I don't think, and I don't think that you all understand. I don't think, Kitty, you all understand Trump or Trump's crowd. Trump's crowd are not that kind of racist. The head of the Proud Boys is black. The head is black, and that's the most aggressive crowd that he deals with. It is not that kind of racism. It is more a ideological racism that's rooted in patriotism and justice and apple pie in the American way. The biggest country star for years was a black guy. That Trump's crowd bought his records. What's his name, Santita? You know what I'm talking about?
Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride. For years. And that was Trump's crowd. I don't think you all get it. I don't think you all understand Donald Trump, who is fundamentally transactional, nor his crowd, who is not that kind of racist. They ain't Ku Klux Klan kind of racist. They are an American ethnocentricity kind of racist.
Well, everybody stay right here. Stay right here. We're going to be talking just for a few more minutes here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and Santita Jackson and Friends. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts about this, and I think we got to talk it out. And I want to thank you, Kitty and Kevin, for sending me the 23 accomplishments of Joe Biden. I know he's got them. They're not messaging this properly. I mean, that's a point that I'm trying to make also. I mean, there's some things that the Biden team has to be open to, including giving us executive orders on police reform and on voting rights. They need to do that, because I promise you before the Lord, they will take a bashing on it come fall, because he's having some numbers that he's struggling with some black voters now too. Just do it. On top of your accomplishments, black voters are the only ones who are always told no after we deliver. That's not going to work anymore. I just had an Uber driver yesterday, a young black woman. She was talking about getting her passport. She's not even registered to vote. She said, I used to be, but... And I don't blame the young lady. We're not engaging these kids. They have lost faith in the system. We've got to deal with that if we want America to survive. I can't wait to be with you tomorrow. Marianne Williamson will be on the Santita Jackson Show. Can't wait to hear from her tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Now stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so you can hear from this whole panel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Love you, everybody. God bless. Thank you, Alex, for a great show. So, I mean, look, did Kitty or Kevin want to respond to what Dwight said? Because I don't want that to go unresponded to. Yes,
I think that, yes. The only thing I think that we need to remember about Donald Trump, and I would never disagree with anything that Reverend Dwight has to say. I can't call him Daddy Dwight because I think I'm older than he is. But the one thing that I think he's underestimating is Trump's ego, and I don't think Trump's ego could bear standing on a stage with Tim Scott, because Donald Trump would be overshadowed at every turn. And I don't think Trump could take that.
Well,
he has to, and I think the important thing to keep in mind is we're talking about two separate universes of voters: the primary voter versus the general election voter. Trump owns the primary voter right now, and you see this manifested in the fact that even Mitch McConnell, who is a master strategist, I disagree with everything he says, but he knows how to play the game well. He is not willing to throw Trump under the bus yet. And because they are afraid that if they stand up to Trump, that they will not be able to survive a Republican primary. Politics is about, in America, because we have such low voter participation, is about motivation, not about persuasion. And the people that are showing up to vote in the Republican primary now, which is different than 20 years ago, or even 15 years ago, they are that aggrieved Trump voter that has seen somebody who says, I'm going to take all the difficult problems that we have in your life in this country, and I'm going to blame them on the others, and I'm going to be your champion. And those are the people that are showing up in Republican primaries now. The moderate Republican voter, the suburban Republican voter, aren't participating in Republican primaries anymore. Because if they were, there would be more moderate and middle-of-the-road candidates that would make it onto the general election ballot. We see it in Illinois. The reason why there are supermajorities in the House and the Senate in the state of Illinois is because suburban voters who used to be solidly moderate Republicans aren't voting for Republican candidates anymore because the people that participate in the Republican primary are interested in somebody that is much more right-wing than those moderates are.
Does anyone want to respond?
Santita, I have a comment which is sort of related, I think. Yeah, it's Linear Bob. In 2016, I remember Hillary Clinton was campaigning on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, and there were people, including Senator Sanders, who were saying that was NAFTA on steroids. And I think there's a whole lot of working people heard that and heard Trump say, first thing I'm going to do is get out of the TPP. And he did. Mm-hmm. And that had to do with I think a lot of people, working people, saw their jobs were going to be shipped offshore if Hillary was elected, and we're going to stay here if Trump was elected. I think that had a lot to do with why a lot of working class people voted for Trump.
But yet Trump didn't create any jobs.
No, he didn't create any jobs, but he stopped the perception of companies getting paid to leave this country and move their manufacturing offshore. That's what TPP was mostly about, as people were hearing about it.
But he left office with the worst job record since Herbert Hoover. So the Republicans' reality versus Trump talk, they need to be able to distinguish between facts and reality. He didn't stop.
He
said he would, and he didn't.
Go ahead.
But I think, Kitty, that what the Democratic Party is actually missing is that this is a new generation. They're not actually like reading details and everything like that. It's all about what they presented on Facebook and Instagram and what catches their eye. So they're not rooted in facts. And so the Democratic Party, in my opinion, is not listening to what the needs of the people are. We have been waiting for Biden to have an executive order. I don't care about the 22 points because none of that affects my life. What affects my life is the George Floyd Justice and Police Act, as well as also the Securing the Voting Rights Act that will help the Democratic Party. These are things that will help us to vote.
Amen.
You don't want to support. That is crazy. So you mean to tell me, as a Democrat, you don't want to support something that's going to help keep you in office, help keep you in legislative. It doesn't make any sense. So that tells me as a voter that you ride along with the Republicans. And people are not, maligned to this. They understand what's happening. And then you have angry black people who are upset and that with the immigration policy. All of these people coming up here, you sitting up here, housing them, feeding them, clothing them. Not saying that this is wrong, but you have Americans who are unhoused, unsecured with health care and jobless. And so you're finding ways and money for people who are immigrating to this country, and we're suffering. So this is something that the Democratic Party has not addressed, and the Republican Party is addressing.
But they are addressing
it. We have to be clear on this. You cannot.
No, I'm only saying. I've told you. This is a corporatist policy that the country itself was founded. The colonies were founded on getting people to work for nothing or next to nothing. I mean, because that's what they're doing. They are shipping these people all over the place, and they are people. We've destabilized their governments. We bring them in here. They're going to do work for little to no money, and that is the plan. You heard President Biden say in an interview 2 weeks ago, "Well, we need our farm workers." Well, okay, we do need them. Why don't you pay them a livable wage? Why don't you deal with big farms and these corporations who are pushing small family farmers out of the business? No, these people are just greedy.
Santita, Santita, there's also underlying issues. You know, the problem of why people who arrive on our shores need food is because we don't allow them to work. We don't give them any work permits for a year after they get here. We put barriers in their way. They don't get any. They get private support, but they don't get public support. We need to look at our whole immigration policy and maybe make it a guest worker program, but our whole policy needs to be revamped.
You're absolutely right. The problem is that it would cost the big guys too much money. They don't. They are just they're slave drivers. They have never changed. Black people were brought here on that policy. We were brought here on a corporatist policy. You had pirates. That is what Columbus was. He was a pirate who was scavenging the Americas for Queen Isabella. That is all that these people have ever done. And then they didn't want to work the land, and they didn't know how, so they got people who were agricultural. They stole Africans, brought them over here, and they had not just to the United States or to the colonies, they brought them all over the Americas. While Europeans were having their little misadventure over here. That is what we're dealing with. And it has not stopped. It's now from black people to brown people. That's all. And we need to call the game what it is. Yeah, because what you do is you starve them out for a year, so then they're willing to do anything, so they can get a crust of bread and such. I'll do whatever you want, massa. I'll do whatever you want. I just need something because I got to feed my baby. My baby's hungry tonight.
I think you're absolutely right, Santita. It's about keeping wages as close to zero as possible.
Linear Bob. That's all it's ever been about. In the meantime, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. We have created more billionaires in a year and a half. In a year and a half. And you've got Big Pharma that made money. We paid to develop the vaccine. And now they're going to charge us for it? Are you for real? What kind of business model is that?
Well, it's the business model we've seen before, where the government research happens in universities, and then a drug company comes along and turns around and makes a product out of it. And all the profits go to the drug company, and they claim they need lots of money in order to do research, when in fact the only research they really do is market research.
Yeah, because why don't they speak to the fact that they have now ceased the production of the J&J vaccine, and they pulled it from the market, and they want to destroy all of those vaccines that are left. I mean, is anyone going to speak to that? That happened this week. So, I mean, what? So what about people who took it? What are you saying about this vaccine? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to say that. Problems. We had better get on the stick about all this dishonesty that's out here. People are tired of it. Tired of it. I'm tired of it. And into the breach will come a Tim Scott, Alan Keyes got you almost 80% of the way in, Kitty. Because culturally he connected with black people. He did. He absolutely did. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what they do, because black people are culturally conservative. That's the real thing. I walked out of the Democratic Convention a few cycles ago when they pulled God out of the platform. I was like, are you for real? That's offensive to me. To me. And did I vote Democrat in the fall? Sure. But was I offended and turned off? Absolutely.
Earlier this morning, Kevin Lampy made this point to me before we were on the air. Kevin, are you still there about how we have to stop treating black and brown voters as monolithic and look at them as just voters?
That's it. Democrats need to do a better job of figuring out each community that exists within each of these demographics. We have for too long created Latino voters, African-American voters as monolithic, as they all are the same, but they're different. And we need to get into more micro-targeting, where we're looking at different groups within there and figuring out the messages that appeal to them to get them motivated to show up and vote.
Well, and you need to respect the votes that you get. So when I vote for you in 2020 and I say I want justice in policing, then you sign an executive order because I'm asking you to do that. Then you need to respect the vote that I've given you. Because you said you wanted it, you said you were going to do this. I need an executive order on voting rights. And I really need it, and so do you, because these people are trying to block me from voting on college campuses and all over the place. They're shutting down polling places all over the country. Are you serious? No, you need to respect what I give you. But see, I don't believe in just giving things away. The easy girl loses in the courtship game, okay? You got to have some requirements of people. Otherwise, you're going to get jammed every single time. I hear silence here, but it's true. That's the way I was raised. No, don't be an easy girl. Don't do it. Don't do it, because you will not get the prize, sugar. Not just a ring. You got to come up with a plan for me and be serious about it.
And Santita, I absolutely don't understand my colleagues in the Democratic Party sometimes, because I do recognize that the most loyal group of voters is African Americans, and especially African American women. And the fact that every 4 years we have to have the conversation again and again and again about giving black voters the respect that they deserve, and about looking at things that black voters care about and making sure that that's part of the agenda. It seems like a discussion I've had with your father for decades about how the National Party isn't listening to their base. And I get it. They're not.
They treated him horribly.
It's very frustrating.
They treated him horribly. But no, Reverend has just always, Reverend could not get a seat at the convention in 2020, 2016, 2012, 2008. I mean, for real? Not a seat. This is someone who's...
I know that. I know that because on a couple of occasions I walked him in and got him a seat.
But
it was crazy.
That's crazy. No, it's not just, it's disrespectful. Yeah. And the fact is, black women are not the only people who've been loyal to the Democratic Party. Black men, by more than 80%, have voted Democrat. Black people have been loyal to the party. Now there has to be an even exchange. Cut us in or you will be cut out. Because one thing these Republicans do, Kitty and Kevin, is they come in with money. And they come in with history. Exactly. And they come in and they say, you know what, I know you've been mistreated. They come in and they got the language down. They got it.
Yep.
And I'm just here to tell you, this is not going to work anymore. It ain't going to work. Because you have in Tim Scott. No, it should. But you got in Tim Scott someone who speaks the language of folks. If Tim Scott can throw off C.K. Hoffler, this is the sharpest sister in the game. If you can throw her
exactly.
I'm like, she said, no, when I saw him, I said I was ready to do back hole. She walked in with all of her finery.
And I was in shock.
Okay.
And I was in shock.
And you were in shock?
I had to check myself. I was in shock because of, one, his charisma, because of, two, his I didn't agree with what he was saying, but he was appealable. He has a lot of charisma. He made sense. His message, his personal journey was something that took me. I didn't really know that much about him. I'd done some research on him, but I thought by and large, prior to that point, I looked at him through the lens of, I thought he was more of a buffoon because of his position on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So when I actually, and so I was diametrically opposed to him going in. minute, is this Senator Tim Scott? I mean, I had to really stop. And I found that he was affable. I found that he was willing to negotiate. He just reached the wrong conclusion. Lindsey Graham, on the other hand, was despicable acting. So I just wanted to point that out. And I didn't agree with his politics, but I found him to be a very, very appealing person, like someone who you would like to talk to. Someone who was very respectful, very kind, and his message, and just think about it, when we're talking about policing reform, his message was, oh, no, you don't have to convince me of the need for change on that. I just believe y'all are going too far. Versus others that said, what's the problem? We don't need to have any police reform at all. His message was, look, I grew up this way. I've been stopped by the police. I'm a black man from the South. I'm a son of the South. I get it. I have been the victim of discrimination and racism, and I'm a Christian. So when you put all that together, it makes you even, and I'm a skeptical trial lawyer, although I do see the glass half full. It makes you just say, well, wait, what? And that's what happened. And I was disappointed that they were not able to, the sides weren't able to come together, because I felt we were so close and looking at the legal issues, so close. But I found that he, as an individual, was someone who was very pleasant to deal with, and it surprised me, because I think the narrative that he was getting in that space, in the space of the negotiations of the George Floyd Justice Policing Act, was very different. He was getting the same narrative that people had for Lindsey Graham, who was really, completely not affable and not interesting at all. But unfortunately, they both reached the same conclusion. So he's someone, he's a force to be reckoned with. I'm not saying I'll vote for him. I'm just saying he's a force to be reckoned with, and he will be appealing to some people, a lot of people in our community.
Because he comes from that. That is all. That is. Look, I'm just reporting the facts. Okay, I'm just letting you know the buzzsaw that folks are walking into. Anytime the New York Times opinion writers say a Tim Scott nomination would be a nightmare for Joe Biden, but it's not just a nomination. If he places, if he shows. I believe that Donald Trump is transactional enough to say, let me bring you in. He welcomed him to the campaign yesterday. Donald Trump has very, very carefully avoided going after black Americans. He's gone after just about everybody else, but he won't touch us. Oh, no. No, he ain't going to do that.
Not publicly. Not publicly. He's not going to do it publicly. He just does it in his actions, but he's not going to do it publicly.
But that's what people look at, TK. That's all they look at.
Oh, I know. No, and so Tim Scott, he's not going to go after Tim Scott publicly. He's going to have to go through a whole lot of gyrations and coming up with some issues relative to Tim Scott. Because I think even, they may not want to admit it, but even the brass in South Carolina, the Democrats, don't find him to be a terrible guy. Now, they may not wish to admit it because of the importance. Right. So I'm just saying.
They are.
We just have to keep our eye on the prize.
Santita and CK,
excuse me.
Oh no, hold on, Dwight. I think
already got the group out door. Okay.
No, because I think you're about to go, Kitty.
I just wanted to turn this on its head a little bit.
Okay.
Of course, I'm coughing. Let's look at Tim Scott as a positive for both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, because CK hit on something really important. Tim Scott is not only smart, he is willing to talk and listen to people. And wouldn't it be a great thing for the country if we could have more Republicans more people leading the Republican Party who were willing to talk and listen and were willing to come to the table, and that we could go back to the time when our Congress was actually able to legislate. And maybe Tim Scott running for president will gain him prominence in the Senate and will make him more of a leader in his own party.
Well, I want the Democrats to do that too, because I'm sitting with the Blue Dogs.
That was the point I was going to make, is that Tim Scott already got all that worked out. He has already won in the South as a black Republican overwhelmingly. So he obviously knows how to negotiate the politics and the landmines of running for office. It is not like this is his first election. This guy's already a senator. He's already a presidential candidate. So don't underestimate his capacity to know what he's looking at and what he's dealing with. This guy is not a sleeper. This guy is a strategist. To be in the United States Senate as a black Republican and be pretty much the only one there for 100 years, other than the boy from Massachusetts, is a skill set.
Oh, yeah.
New Jersey. He wasn't from the South. Tim Scott is from the South as a Republican and is negotiating this thing. This man has a skill set that I think that we haven't properly processed. And again, Trump will put Bozo on the ticket with him if he think he can win. Trump is transactional. And it's
That's exactly what I said. Did you say Bobo the Clown? Who? Who would he put on the ticket if he could win?
Bozo.
Right. I said Bobo the Clown, but Bozo, yes. I agree. He wants to win at any cost. Now, he has demonstrated that that's the way he plays.
Wait a minute, and guess what? Guess who else wants to win? Tim Scott. They will do that delicate dance in order. Don't sleep on this guy with because he has got a polished personality. Black people go nowhere being angry and mean. That ain't gonna work. We know we have to code switch. We know how to get along in this society. He knows how to do that. Look, my father was looking at me with an arched eyebrow when he said, "These people at Fox really like you." What's going on, baby? I know how to get along with people, Daddy. You taught me that. I know how to get along with people without compromising my principles, but I know how to get along with people. You find a common thread and you weave that, and that's it. I get him. And black folks who just live in America every day, you have to figure it out every single day in order to live until the end of the day. So I think sleeping on him is not smart. Everybody's looking for Ron DeSantis today. I think I'm gonna look at the interview and all of that, but baby, he's not the one I'm looking at. I'm looking at the joker who's had to hop through the most hoops, and who's had to climb the highest fence, and that is Tim Scott. And he's already got tens of millions of dollars behind him. The head of Oracle.
And he's from South Carolina.
There's something in the water in South Carolina. It's something there, because he's something there. Something. And my daddy's from South Carolina.
And so what that, but what that's going to tell black voters is he's been through something. He's been through something. Whether we like his politics or not, he's been through something to get where he is. And it's part of his narrative. See, unlike people like, I hate to even mention Clarence Thomas and Herschel Walker, but let's just throw the two of them together. Right, but unlike the two of them, see, the bar is going to be very low because they're so low that Tim Scott's going to come in and he will easily be distinguishable for those skeptics saying, oh my God, this is another Herschel Walker, another Clarence Thomas. That would be negative. That's not his narrative. Because people will make that assumption because he's a member of the Republican Party and he's running on the Republican ticket. But that's not going to be his narrative. And for those that kind of like a little bit of something about Trump, like I know some black business people who are Democrats who have said things to me that were almost, I just couldn't believe it, in terms of their affinity for certain things that Trump stands for. This candidate, if it's Tim Scott, would enable them to comfortably vote for that ticket. from a business perspective. So I think we just have to be very careful.
Well, you know,
and not underestimate him.
Well, and look, and let me tell you something. Before you give your vote away, before you get who you want, get what you need. Negotiate that. Let's grow up in our politics. And even if someone is elected who you don't want, you better get what you need from them because they represent you anyway. So enough. I'm going to be loyal to. I need certain things taken care of. I need my black banks back. I need my HBCUs. I need those things to be funded. I need that, and I'm going to work with you to make that happen. There's some guarantees I need, and that's it. That's all. I don't fall in love with parties, and I don't fall in love. I rise in it. How about that? So. You've got to grow up, everybody. Does anyone else have anything they want to say before we go?
I'm curious about, Senator Scott's views towards labor and working people, because this is the one thing the Republican Party has been falling down on in many ways. Is they tend to look at the employer as being always right. And the best thing is the least regulation, so that means more pollution, more hazards in the workplace, and lower pay, among other things. So I'm curious to know what his position on working people are.
You know what? I think we need to ask that question of both parties, because after all, it was the right wing of the Democratic Party that gave us NAFTA and TPP, right?
Oh, absolutely, it was. And I also saw President Biden miss an opportunity to give all those railroad workers paid sick leave.
Absolutely. Kitty, were you saying something?
Linear Bob is right on the railroad workers, but on everything else, Joe Biden is working in lockstep with labor unions. If you note that almost every major speech he's given this year has been at a labor union and with a labor union, and before each of those speeches, he's in dialogue with the people at those labor unions. Tim Scott, again, nice guy, charismatic guy. Look at South Carolina and labor. Look at what he's done. He's 100% anti-worker and 100% quote-unquote right-to-work record. If you want a friend of the working people, it's Joe Biden. His record shows it. His rhetoric shows it. And every day that he's in office show it. I agree on the railroad workers. He should have gone farther. He was wrong. But everything else, he's there, and workers are showing up. I also think I've got to say one more thing about Joe Biden. Every time he gives a speech, he tells people, and he's right, it's not a choice between me and the Almighty. It's a choice between me and the alternative. And what people saw in 2020, they made a choice between Joe Biden and the alternative. Trump was squashed electorally, as much as he wants to say that he wasn't. We all know what happened. Joe Biden got more votes than anybody else that's ever run for president.
And I agree, you're right. I think there may be then a problem with how the people in the I guess you could say the Central Committee of the Democratic Party, for lack of a better term, how they're messaging this, because this thing about here, what you're talking about with the labor people being at every thing that, every time Joe does something, he does it with labor people. I did not know that.
The messaging is horrible.
It is not.
Yeah.
It is not messaging. It's the news. The media were at. The speech he gave after the State of the Union. The day after the State of the Union, he was in Madison, Wisconsin, at the Laborers International Union Training Center. A couple weeks ago, he was in Pennsylvania at another labor training center, talking about job creation, talking about more apprenticeships for black and brown people. He keeps saying it. If the media doesn't report on that, he has to keep saying it again and again and again. I had a discussion on the sidelines with his speechwriter, and I said, I've heard this 20 times. which means you're on message and you're doing it, but people still aren't hearing it, so he's got to keep doing it. But, if you want to know what he's really doing, an unfiltered version, you can also go on the White House and look at his schedule and look at the speeches. Unfortunately, mainstream media likes to report on Hunter Biden and not on Joe Biden. And you don't hear the accomplishments or what Biden does every day. And I imagine it's very frustrating for them. It's very frustrating for me because when I'm at the events and seeing the interaction and hearing the interaction, it's very frustrating to see what actually ends up on the television news that night.
Well, that just means that the power structure probably wants him out. You know how the game is played. At the end of the day,
it's not that they want him out; they want conflict.
No. When these folks, you and I both know how this game is played. When these folks want you in, they show nice pictures of you. They make you look energetic. And you cannot be criticized. When these folks start reporting, even in a nice way, a story that could be a problem for you, that means the trap is down the road. I've been doing this all my life. You have been doing it too. I get it. I'm not mad about it. I don't hate the player. I don't even hate the game. I'm just clear on it. Okay? So the thing is, though, in the meantime, the Bidens, no matter what hits they take, and they're going to take them because you're in this space. The fact is, today somebody's walking around America hungry, and it's a whole lot of people. Somebody's school has been closed and it's not been reopened. Oh, no, not as a school. It's a fabulous condominium. America is not doing right by its people because we've allowed the oligarchs to replace the monarchs, and we are dying as a result. This American project is suffering. It is dying on the vine. Now, I don't personalize my politics. You know what? These folks, you choose to get in this space. Look, I get it because we've been in this space. I get it. I'm talking about these folks who are out here hurting every day, and no one is addressing their pain. And that's shameful. Absolutely shameful. But I need you all to make some closing thoughts because I need to get out of here. I got to run. Y'all.
Okay, Santita, I'm going to stay on until everyone finishes because I've got people joined in on my line.
Okay.
My closing thoughts are: don't sleep on Senator Tim Scott. Again, I don't agree with his politics, but I do think that we are living and breathing in a divided country. The division is the most pronounced in my lifetime. We almost had a successful coup d'etat 2 years ago. It almost succeeded 3 years ago. It almost succeeded. And I think that since then, positions have become more entrenched. So Senator Tim Scott, for some, if he were to join any Republican ticket, the way that Kamala Harris did, could be the solution to the Republican Party's victory against President Biden, unless the Democrats wake up and start doing things differently. The messaging, when I say the Democrats, I'm a Democrat. The messaging has got to be better. Of course, the media wants to focus on Hunter Biden, but President Biden is the president. So there are many ways, and he's got the most sophisticated media team, I believe, that we've seen in a while. So there are ways to continue to get out the messaging on media, social media, and they've got to do things that are more appealing to these young folks. Because the young folks, I'm going to talk about in Georgia, because we almost had a Senator Herschel Walker. Oh, my goodness, say that. Because of that, we have to really, really not forget how to appeal to these young folks, because at the end of the day, they're going to make the difference. And, of course, African-American voters, the African-American base. I don't think that Tim Scott will move the needle much with black women, but he will potentially move the needle with African-American men. And enough so that could give Republicans a victory. So I think we just have to look at the country the way it is, understand the dynamics, don't fight what is a reality, but fight to make a difference given the reality. Fight to win given the reality, because that is exactly what the Republicans are doing. And we cannot afford another, as an officer of the court, we cannot afford another round of federal judges appointed the way that they were appointed last time. And trust me, if Republicans gain power, a number of justices may retire so that new, more ultra-conservative justices can be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then we're going to be for the next foreseeable 50 years in a world of hurt.
My closing thoughts are: don't confuse racism and ethnocentrism. Don't confuse racism and ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism says that I'm willing to accept anybody into my crowd, black or white, as long as they buy into my innate superiority. And that's the Republicans that Trump appeals to. That's his crowd. Is that as long as you buy into the fact that God has made me superior and my philosophy superior, I'm willing to accept anybody. Which is why conservatives love Clarence Thomas, because he's bought into their innate superiority. They love him. And I think that we make a mistake when we think that these Republicans or these Trumpites are Ku Klux Klan kind of racist. That's not who they are. That's why I said that even the Proud Boys, the head of that is a black guy who's bought into that philosophy. We need, again, to understand what we're looking at.
Well, you know what? Very quickly, everybody, because I can't. I got to keep you all on. Because I got to go. Once I go, everybody gets cut off. So just very, very quickly, I've got like 3 minutes. Linear Bob.
Before
Yes.
you go, I want to just say thank you for doing this, for bringing everybody together. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I'm glad that it's being recorded by YouTube, if nowhere else, so people can hear it.
Oh,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Tracy, bless your heart. You say this. Why don't you call in, Tracy? All this talking you're doing over here, just call in. Let your voice be heard. Yeah, you should do that because you have a lot to say, and I think you should say it. Let your voice be heard, but engage. The interesting thing about social media is that people are able to talk out, and many of you all are afraid of engaging. Yeah. You don't want to do the back and forth. I don't know why. Maybe you don't think your arguments can stand the light of day. I don't know. Or you just don't feel like it. But you need to engage people. You need to talk to people. That's why I appreciate not only does Linear Bob engage us here, but when we reach out to him, he wants to be on the air. He's willing to do that. So do that. Consider that, Tracy. That would be nice. That would be nice for you to do because you have a lot to say. And you can bend the conversation in ways that maybe you're not able to do here right now. So think about it. And everybody else. I mean, because it's your show. It's your show. But everybody, I love you. I'm going to have to run. And this has been, I hope you all have gotten something out of this conversation. Abraham down there in Venezuela, sending you so much love, my dear, 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 dear Abraham. And I'm sending everyone so much love. Kitty and Kevin and Dr. D and CK, who's going to be on at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Court TV, and Aaron Connolly. And who else am I missing? Reverend Pastor Hatch. All of you. It has been a joy being with you. Chappelle Wells. It's a joy being with all of you today. I love you, love you, love you. But I gotta go. So everybody have a great one, okay? Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.